Hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the AfroMattt Show. This is episode 69. Um, and today we've got, once again, only me, myself, and I, AfroMattt, doing a couple of solo podcasts here. It is finals week, so Daniel and Lucas are MIA, incapacitated right now with workload and stuff like that. Sorry again for this episode being a little bit late. We're gonna get on a little bit tighter of schedule. We were supposed to record with them. They finals popped up. I mean, it's not like finals pop up, but I had it scheduled for the time. They couldn't make it. Had to push it back. I had a wedding to go to this Saturday. I'm no excuses on my part, but they will become a tighter schedule. I'm sorry about that. But that being said, episode 69, we are getting rolling. Lots in the news recently. I don't know if you noticed, but we're 1 minute into the podcast. I cannot even mention the A word, and I feel like I would probably get some sort of flag on my video. So I think today we're gonna start out with a fun tackling of a different subject, and that is the collapsing economy. So, I actually got some word back that you guys actually kind of like the quote unquote book review of Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky. I am reading or listening to. Look, this is what happens when you work an 8-hour job. Like I used to just listen to podcasts. Now I'm like, well, I kind of want to expand my mind. I'm going to read books, but I'm not. I want to read books. I want. Who has time to read? So I'm listening to books. And yes, my lips are blue right now. I just had a snow cone, so I do look decrepit, and I look like honestly I look like a human corpse. And yes, I did shave my beard, so I look even more like a honestly a rape victim, not a anything else. But I do look dead. Yeah, the outside is as dead as the inside. So let's get started. But yeah, so more I haven't read much else besides the four filters. I'm gonna read more on Manufacturing Consent, but I have made it halfway through this book. This is called Atlas Shrugged. This is a different viewpoint from and this is a 1,168 page book written by Ayn Rand. She is a capitalist enthusiast. So the book is very pro-capitalist. So Noam Chomsky, he's not anti-capitalist, but he's anti-government control, which I mean he is a lot more left-leaning than Ayn Rand. Rand is the government's only job is for her idea is that, or I guess her philosophy is that government's one job is like police force, firemen, and military. Military only to protect the people within the country. And everything else, no taxes, no. I'm pretty much nothing else. So, Ayn Rand, it's an interesting book. It's a fun read. It's mostly the reason I'm drawn to it is because it's based off of one of my favorite video games. Or I guess one of my favorite video games is based off that book. BioShock takes place in a world where, and I'm going to spoil this for you, where they live in a secret underground city. Whatever. But we're going to talk about that book a little bit later in the podcast, probably at the latter half. But initially, let's get right in. So we were talking about the collapse of the economy. This is fun. This is a fun, lighthearted, little deep dive. Tech giants lose more than $1 trillion in value in the last 3 trading days. So if you've been keeping an eye on the market at all, you've been noticing that it is red and like just crashing. Not only is the actual stock market crashing, but crypto's crashing. Look, guys, if you listen to this podcast, I told you like 2 months ago, sell all your Bitcoin, sell everything, liquidate your assets, turn it into gold. I didn't tell you turn it into gold or whatever. Dude, just prepare for the worst and hope for the best is what is my motto right now. And I don't want to deal with volatile assets such as, crypto. Dude, imagine how stupid you feel right now if you have an ape profile picture for $1.5 billion. $1.5 million. Yikes. Gary Vee's feeling real dumb right now. Probably lost a third of his net worth overnight. Unless he was smart and sold it and liquidated it, but that being said, here we go. The world's largest technology companies have shed over $1 trillion in value in the last 3 trading days. Stocks at large have sold off since the Federal Reserve raised its benchmark interest rate on Wednesday. But so interest rates are rising in response to inflation, trying to put a bottle cap on the increase in demand. So, as at least this is true for the home market, is so many people are buying homes, these prices are out of fucking control. And in order to decrease demand, a decrease in demand is the only way that the prices would ever stagnate. In order to decrease demand, they raise interest rates. Interest rates rise. Now you only have cash buyers because mom and pop don't want to take out a loan at 8% or whatever. So now cash buyers are free reign. That being said, I could talk about the stock or the housing market all day. It blows. Yeah, it sucks. I had someone. Let me see someone sent me this today. It was a depressing message. I sent this to I work in a real. If you're listening for the first time, I work in real estate, and someone sent me this message, and it was a little bit just it was just depressing. I had no clue how to even respond to it because I'm like, how do you even respond to something this depressing? Because you have to, in order to respond to things, you have to believe it yourself, and I just don't believe in the housing market. So it's like hard to sell something that you just don't truly believe. Where did that go? Oh, here it is. Here's what he said. I said, is there anything particular that has you putting your home search on hold for now? He responds with, rising interest rates and an all-time high median home price has a lot to do with it. The market is whack, my friend. Rising home costs are not being matched with wages. All true so far. At the point where we couldn't afford the house that we live in now if we were in the market to buy it. Greed has priced out 70% of Americans, and the participation perception on the U.S. market is over. Let me read that. Greed has priced 70% of Americans out, and the perception on the U.S. market is overwhelmingly negative. Sorry, bud, we're out. And I just left him on red. I'm like, okay. So he kind of hit it on the head. You can be as much of a boomer as you want and say, when I was your age, I was making 15 cents an hour and I still bought my first car when I was 12. Okay, cool. And this is where I have a problem with Ayn Rand's philosophy on go capitalism. While she makes some good points, and there are some good quotes. There are some good quotes in that book, and she, what I like about different philosophies is you can just, there's good parts and there's bad parts, and you don't have to agree with everything. They're all arguments, so they stand on their own merit, but there's always something that makes it unsound or untrue. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this whole country thing is going to work out, guys. It's falling apart. It's like it's bursting at the seams, and it's all the only thing that this exposes is the cracks. This exposes the massive cracks in the society, and where you see the fissure points first is the weak points. So first you see it at gas. Gas was the first thing to really rise. That's always a contentious item. It's almost a necessity. So there's no buyer's market, no with necessity items. There's no buyers or sellers market. It's a necessity. Its demand is constant and ever flowing, right? It's like water or electricity. There's no buyers or sellers market of electricity. You're not going to have like a short squeeze of electricity. It's almost like so we see gas first to go, and then next we're going to start seeing the food. The food is probably next. And then after that, it's going to be depressing things like rate hikes on internet bills. Stuff that you like, since you're stuck in the home because you're not eating out and you're not doing entertainment things, you're not going on vacations. Cox will say, well, hey, everyone's stuck at home. I mean, why don't we just raise the internet rates, $15 a month, 15 bucks a month. And it's like, what are they going to do about it? So we might see that. Who knows? I know Magic the Gathering cards and Pokemon cards just increased, quote unquote, increased the price to adjust to inflation. It's cardboard, essentially, printed cardboard. I can't believe it's affected too much by inflation, but gotta squeeze every penny out of anyone that you can. So things are going to go up in price. People are not being paid more. So essentially, if you have not received an 8% increase in your wage from last year to this year, you are essentially losing money, and you are being your open mouth is being pissed in. I said this last time. But yeah, so that's fun. Tech giants lose $1 trillion in value the last 3 trading days. Fun. Here's a cool graph. This is the graph of home price median income. This is home price over median income ratio. So this is the median. There's mean, median, and mode. Mean is the average. Median, the number in the middle, right? So if you line them all up, shortest to tallest, it's the one in the middle. If there's 2 in the middle, it's the average between the 2. And mode is the most common one. So the median income is a good estimate for what the population is looking like what shape they're in. So the higher the number, so in this case, if the home price is $5, right? The median income is $2, right? That's 5 over 2 or 2.5. So this is just, I'm using small numbers so that when you see it in big numbers, it makes sense. So then, say the home price is 4, right? Cheaper home price, same median, 2. That equals 2. 4 over 2 is 2. That's a lower number. So the lower the number, the closer it makes sense for the median person to buy a home at the average home price. So here we have the graph of home price versus median income ratio. So here you may notice a giant spike in 2008, 2007-ish. This was what was known as the housing bubble, which crashed and plummeted the price in, looks like reached an all-time low in 2010, I want to say, maybe 2011, 2012. And now we are at an all-time global high for home price versus median income. This is bigger than 2007, bigger than 2008. This is the biggest gap between home prices and median income we have ever seen in all of American history. And if that's not enough to convince you that maybe a bubble is coming, then I don't know what will. Look, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I think it's going to be soon, like soon, like by the end of the year soon. Some people think that it's going to be by 2025, 2024. I think it's going to be sooner. And I think that following that, once a lot of people are kicked out on the streets, rental prices will spike. It'll be no fun. Massive recession inbound. But yeah, so let's move on to the hot topic issue. Now that we are a little bit into this podcast, and we don't have a chance of getting absolutely yoinked off the airways. So we have Roe v Wade happening right now. So there's a leaked document by someone. Hasn't happened in 20 years that someone's leaked a document from Supreme Court document saying someone's opinion on Roe v Wade, one of the Supreme Court justices. He was saying, "Hey, yo, this ain't right," or whatever. So he like wrote a little dissertation. It got leaked. The public found out. Public's kind of pissed. So that's where we're at right now. These podcasts are like a little time capsule, a little snippet of what's going on in the world. So yeah, so everyone's kind of pissed. It's bringing out the whole abortion debate again. So you got people on the right who are like, "Hey, don't do that. Hey, woman, don't do that." And then you have people on the left who are like, "I want to abort in response to this, I'll abort my kid right now, and he's 15." So it's like we're seeing a couple different sides here. In these cases, I like to remain a third-party spectator because, for one, it's safe, and for two, I'm also just like a third-party spectator of my own life because it's boring and I'm depressed, but it is what it is. So if you're like me and you didn't even know what Roe v. Wade was, but you've heard it, I want to give you a little bit of a rundown of the background because I found this out too. So this is history.com. You can find this for yourself. Roe v. Wade was a landmark legal decision issued on January 22nd, 1973, in which the U.S. Supreme Court struck down a Texas statute banning abortion, effectively legalizing the procedure across America. So anytime the Supreme Court makes a precedent, so anytime say they do come to a decision that sets legal precedent. Now that's legal precedent, everything that happens is based off of that. So they'll go, okay, this is already precedent, so it's legal, or this is already precedent, this is illegal. So they don't have to do the same case over and over again. So I guess Roe v. Wade set precedent that abortion was so let's see. The court held that a woman's right to an abortion was implicit on the right of privacy protected in the 14th Amendment. Okay, so it was a constitution debate. So the question is it constitutionally... So is your right to an abortion based in the Constitution? Apparently the 14th Amendment says, quote unquote, the 14th Amendment says... Ratified in 1868, granted citizenship to all persons born in born or naturalized in the United States, including former enslaved people, and guaranteed all citizens equal protection of the laws. One of the three amendments passed during the Reconstruction era was to abolish slavery and establish civil and legal rights for Black Americans. It would become a basis for many landmark Supreme Court decisions over the years. Sorry, I'm gonna drink a little water here. My voice is going out. I literally work. My job is to talk all day, and then I get on here and I talk. So I literally talk all day. This is the only time I get to talk and say meaningful things that are, that come from my brain. Other times it's just coming from a script that I wrote on how to sell people homes that I don't think they should buy. But no, I do. I don't try to work with buyers. I try to work with sellers right now. I don't trust. I couldn't trust having someone buy unless they're like rich from California. I'm like, buy whatever. You have the money. You have cash. You can fucking buy me. So yeah, Roe v. Wade. So pretty much a debate on a woman's right to have an abortion. So I mean, it's a hot topic issue. It's been a hot topic since early 16th century, I think, probably. Back in Queen's and King's Day, they probably used to do something like bloodletting or something. They did some crazy shit back then. But yeah, so Jane Roe, some lady from Texas, was gang raped, and she didn't want to have the kid, or maybe she had an abortion. Let's see what this case was all about. Let's dig in this a little bit. Crazy thing about Jane, when I was looking up Jane Roe, she was like, so she's like the hallmark, like Roe v. Wade. That's Roe, her last name, Jane Roe. But later in her life, she actually became very Christian and was adamantly against abortion. So it kind of took an interesting turn at the end of her, near the end of her life. I saw clips of her getting baptized, and she said the one thing she regretted in her life was getting an abortion. So that's a thing. I mean, you can look that up, I think. So let me look that up. Did Jane Roe regret abortion? Well, apparently she was paid to say she regretted abortion, but I thought she said that like at church. Who pays someone at church to say something? Well, I don't know. I could have sworn I saw it. She was like on her deathbed. Who pays someone on their deathbed to say that? Okay. Anyways. And that was just what those are notable things. So Supreme Court ruling in 1970s, the Texas District Court ruled that the state's abortion ban was illegal because it violated constitutional right to privacy. And that's the thing about the Constitution. People think that, so there's pretty much like two ways of thinking about the Constitution. You can either think of it like it means exactly what it means written on the page, or it's up for interpretation. A lot of people, it's like purist versus interpretalist or something like that. When I was in college, I took a business law class, and the dude was a purist. He's like, these words mean what they chose these words very specially just for these use cases. So constitutional law is one of the look, you see Wells the Menace back there. Beef Wellington. My cat the Menace is coming here. He's gonna come fuck up shit on the podcast. Let me get him. Oh. Say something into the mic. Say something. Wells. Wells, he's camera shy. Come on. Oh, okay. Yeah, he's camera shy. Um, but so yeah. I don't really want to step too deep into Roe v. Wade, my stance on abortion. Man, I try to think about this as like from the most logical standpoint, and also a standpoint of the golden rule, which is what I like to live by. Do do unto others as you want to do done to yourself. Pretty much, I don't want someone infringing upon my rights, so I wouldn't want to infringe upon someone else's. That being said, the whole 9 month thing. I mean, if you're waiting until 9 months, I think you gotta question some things. For instance, your decision making skills are put into question at that point. Uh, Now, whether anyone can tell you not to, I think that should probably be on your resume. It took me 9 months to make a decision of whether I wanted a kid or not. But um, it definitely wouldn't look good on a resume. Decision making skills at that point are definitely put on. They're questionable at best. And I mean, and the people that when you find out your kid has Downs and you want to flush it down. I mean, yeah, it's a. I mean, hey, I want a Downs kid as much as the next guy, but I mean, there's a this that's why this gets dicey, because it's hard to tiptoe around these things, because it's like, do you want your kid to have Down syndrome? Well, in a perfect world, but I mean, people with Down syndrome are like the purest type of people in the world. So I mean, it's kind of like, but then again, so it's like, yeah, and of course, situations like Roe v. Wade, if you're gang raped, I mean, I'm surprised this wasn't, I'm surprised this doesn't come up more often. But yeah, that no, in her case, it was definitely, it's definitely warranted. I think she just didn't want it because it was black. All right, thanks for listening, guys. That was the end of the podcast. But no, I actually don't know who Wade was, but I don't even know if he was black. It was but so Henry Wade was in 1970, the attorneys filed lawsuit on behalf of McCory and all other women. Oh, wait. Henry Wade. Okay, yes, so. So, yeah, I mean, apparently the Supreme Court is deciding to overturn it. When that happens, who knows? But, it's not a simple issue. It's complicated, multifaceted. I discussed this with one of my friends who I consider intelligent, whatever that means. Not that me considering them intelligent makes them so, but we're talking. It really boils down. The whole argument boils down almost to, when do you consider life something alive, right? Because that's really the question. Because Christians, and this is, however illogical this may be, you have to realize that they imagine that life begins the moment that inception happens, which is, I mean, completely illogical. But hey, it's there. I mean, whatever. That's a ground. That's a point where they believe. Then there's some people that believe life starts at the first breath, the first heartbeat. Some people believe life doesn't even begin until, I mean, you're out in the world walking around like a little, like that little screaming baby potato that you are. But I mean, so I mean, those people are kind of wild. The people that believe life doesn't begin till you leave your mom. That's a little wild, because it's like, what if you were born, 4 days early? I mean, really, you're not even supposed to be out yet. You have to wait 4 days to be alive? I don't know, but yeah, I'm in no spot to tell anyone what to do, but I would say, you're cutting it close with 9 months. That's sketchy on my. That's cutting it close, but okay. All I'm saying is your decision making skills are called into question. Anything after probably 6 months, but I did tweet that I do want to put 92nd trimester abortions on the table. Since we're bringing it back up, I kind of want to just put 92nd trimester abortions on the table. Since, it would make a lot of decisions a lot easier for a lot of 23-year-olds, specifically 23-year-olds. But yeah, that being said, let's let's move on to something a little bit more fun and jolly. And that is Blackrock, the ever-flowing chalice that is Blackrock's TikTok account.
Ever heard of the term stakeholder capitalism?
I love this. Blackrock, tell me more, please. So if you don't know, this is Blackrock. If you haven't watched the channel before, we talk about them a lot. They're buying up a ton of real estate. Their end goal is to own, I guess, everything. So,
ever heard of the term stakeholder capitalism? One way to think about it is like making chicken soup. Let's explain. CEOs focused only on making money for their shareholders is like soup with only chicken broth. But let's consider everyone who impacts a company: the employees, the suppliers, and the clients. Now that's much harder. Because like a good soup requiring a variety of ingredients, stakeholder capitalism refers to companies that serve all of their key stakeholders as well as their shareholders. So don't forget to eat your veggies.
yeah, Blackrock telling me what stakeholder capitalism is. Although we do not live in a stakeholder capitalist society, I think we believe no one's beholden to their stakeholders. Everyone's beholden to their shareholders. So I mean, that and the U.S. government. So kind of we don't really believe in a stakeholder society. Stakeholder, like they were saying, is people who have a stake in the company. Not necessarily people who are invested in, but people who shop there, people who supply, who rely on you to buy their goods and distribute them, and also the shareholders. But no one really cares about stakeholders. It's all about shareholders. That's why BlackRock, coincidentally, is a massive shareholder of several of the largest companies in the world. So, yeah, they should know. Here's BlackRock doing the wordle of the day. Taxes. They're talking about taxes.
With tax day on April 18th upon us again, some of you may be wondering, why should I pay taxes? Well, there's one good reason. It's the law, thanks to the 16th Amendment.
Yeah, thanks, BlackRock.
While taxes aren't fun in the traditional sense, like playing Wordle, paying taxes is your chance to do good in the world. Taxes help pay for things that society needs, like schools, retirement and housing programs, food stamps, national parks, and much more. But aside from all
I really
kind
kind
of
of hate national parks, though.
Pay your taxes is so you can get it out of the way, so you can get back to playing Wordle.
Thanks, BlackRock. I want to play Wordle. I want to do my taxes so I can go back to playing Wordle. But so yeah, I mean, BlackRock telling you what to do. Pay tax. I want to know how much BlackRock paid in taxes. How much did BlackRock pay in taxes? Corporations pay taxes, right? I mean, they probably paid like what? They're they're an $11 trillion asset manager hedge fund, and they probably paid like $100 million in taxes or something. Yeah, it's really awesome. and I'm going to touch on this a little bit later when I talk about Ayn Rand and the Atlas Shrugged book.
So check this out.
This is actually kind of crazy.
We've got a video here.
This is another TikTok.
Live action of Kevin and I at this candy store at the Dell booth. But what's really neat is they're running a analytics engine here. This is called...
So they have an AI mapping, and it's tracking how long people stand at which shop.
Deep North to give retailers insight into what's going on in their stores. And this includes things like shelf touches, number of people in different zones.
This is wild.
Where they're spending their time. And so when we think about what you can do with just a little bit of GPU at the edge, these retail use cases are really cool. This visual...
Dude, if I have to... Dude, once you go into, like, any sort of white-collar job, I cringe anytime I hear someone use case, circle back. Let me circle you in on this. Yo, ugh. God, I hate that shit. Nothing I hate worse than office lingo. Yeah, let me circle you in on this. It all trickles down. It boils down. We have to circle back. Let me loop you back in. Let me CC you in this. That one's not really that bad. I mean, I CC people and stuff, but saying CC is kind of cringe. So I'm like, I'll just send this to you. But yeah, no, I hate office. I hate people. Dude, I just hate people so much. I really do think that the world as we know it is changing, and not much we can do about it. That being said, this is my favorite Einstein of Wall Street. This guy even, like, he has like a crazy hair like Einstein. So if you want to watch him on TikTok, his name is Einstein of Wall Street.
Where to run, baby? Nowhere to hide. Dow at its 2022 low. NASDAQ absolutely getting torched. Crypto is completely on fire. There is nothing but red on the screen. It is only Monday. The sell-off continues after a ruthless week last week. Interest rates on the rise. Taper starting to play into the marketplace. Fear, anxiety, we're seeing it. Tranche 1, 2, and 3. They're starting to sell the market. Retail, I'm sure, is getting involved. Margin calls across the board. This is a painful market. This is hard to navigate. It's a beautiful sunny day out here on Monday, yet inside there is nothing but red. Anyway, I wish you all the best. If you need help trying to navigate this craziness, DM me the word sunny day and I'll try and connect to the solution. Have a great day, everybody. Happy trading. Please be careful.
He's a fun guy. This is
One does not.
this is Noam Chomsky. This is Noam Chomsky's opinion on Roe v. Wade.
One does not necessarily allow the state.
I don't actually think this is on Roe v. Wade, but I think it is on. It applies to Roe v. Wade.
To define what is legal. Now, the state has the power to enforce a certain concept of what is legal, but power doesn't imply justice or correctness even. It's proper to carry out actions that will prevent the criminal acts of the state, just as it's proper to violate a traffic ordinance in order to prevent a murder. If I was standing at a street corner and the traffic light were red, let's say I was standing in my car and I drove across the traffic light to prevent somebody from, let's say, machine gunning a group of people, of course that's not violation of law. It's an appropriate and proper action. No sane judge would convict you for such an action. Similarly, a good deal of what the state authorities define as civil disobedience is not really civil disobedience. In fact, it's legal, in fact, obligatory behavior in violation of the commands of the state, which may or may not be legal commands. So one has to be rather careful about calling things illegal, I think.
Yeah, and that's something that Ayn Rand also agrees with how she depicts laws in the book. We'll do two more, and then we'll talk about the part that everyone falls asleep at. Talk about books. So this is offensive bowling alley animations. This one's fun. So we have a bowling ball being bullied in school. He got pushed, and all the bowling pins are laughing at him. But one bowling pin gives him his glasses back. He's so nice. That little bowling pin finds a note on his locker. It says, "Don't come to school tomorrow. Signed, bowling ball. Spared." That's a good one. I like that. He also got it's a school shooting joke. All right, we'll watch this one last thing. This is I don't know. This was at the UFC.
Last fight, I was tired. I was exhausted. I'm about to launch this NFT that's going to change the fight game. And I put in 30 all-nighters before that fight. I had herpes before that fight, 2 outbreaks in the span of a week. I'm here. I'm healthy. Let's go. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I'll fight.
Yeah, I don't know what that guy's on, bro. He's about to drop an NFT that's about to change the fight game. 2 outbreaks of herpes, no problem.
Last fight, I was tired. I was exhausted. I'm about to launch this NFT that's going to change the fight game. And I put in 30 all-nighters before that fight. I had herpes before that fight, 2 outbreaks in the span of a week. I'm here. I'm healthy. Let's go. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I'll fight.
Jesus. So that's the TikTok for the afternoon. Now let's do a real quick recap. I just wanted to kind of go over the book that I've been reading. I like to kind of keep you guys abreast with all the newest undertakings of AfroMattt. This is Atlas Shrugged. Atlas Shrugged is a book that follows main character Dagny. She is a entrepreneurial type whose father created a massive transcontinental train company. Her brother ends up getting the company. The brother is what's called a looter. In her philosophy, there's looters, there's essentially makers, and then there's takers. She calls them looters, and then just the main characters, I guess. Essentially, everyone who's not an entrepreneur is a looter. And she makes some good points throughout the book. So she has some good quotes. I took some quotes that I did like. So I'll give you a quick rundown of the story so far. I'm about halfway through it. It's a 1,100 page book. So I mean, cut me some slack. But so she, one of my cats just yelled at me. Okay, so Dagny in the story, she ever since she was a kid, she always knew she wanted to run the company that her granddad made. So she works, she starts off as a clerk in the office. She ends up getting, doing good. She's an excellent business lady. She ends up running the whole company. But her brother still owns it, but she's running from the background because she's the only competent one. Then this guy named Hank Reardon invents a brand new metal alloy called Reardon Metal. It's like brand new super steel. It's lighter than steel. It's easier to ship. But it's 100 times stronger or whatever. It's a brand new invention. He invented it with a group of scientists. He's been working 10 years at it. Eventually, the story progresses. His metal isn't trusted in the beginning. The people in the government are saying, "Oh, this has no studies. Don't ride on this train. The train tracks will never hold up. You don't want to be the first one to ride on it." So they ride on it. It's a huge success. So his new Reardon metal becomes, just the best. He gets tons of orders. They can't fill him anymore. Throughout the story, the looters, essentially the government, and the poor people, they do everything in the sake of social. So everything comes from a social standpoint. You've got to be making steel for how would this affect people socially. You've got to think about the social aspect. You've got to give us some of that steel so that we can help the poor and the needy. That's what she means by looters. They disguise their looting as socially just. So So yeah, it's kind of true, but some of the here's a quote that I liked from it. The lovers of money are willing to work for it. They know they are able. They know they are able to deserve it. The man who damns money has obtained it dishonorably, and who respects it has earned it. Run from anyone who says money is evil. The only substitute for money for them is the muzzle of a gun. Looters don't see it as safe to rob Looters see if it is safe to rob defenseless men once they pass a law to disarm them. But if their loot becomes the magnet of other looters, and they get it from where they got it. And then the race goes, not to the ablest of production, but to the most ruthless with brutality. Essentially saying, if there's no people to create things, the looters will jump from, Elon Musk. They'll pick his carcass clean. Then they'll jump to the next person. They'll pick his carcass clean. But if there's no one that knows what to do with the money and how to create stuff, then when you loot, unless you do something with that, you'll just get looted. So the looters will just cannibalize each other unless there's some sort of in her philosophy. There's essentially she believes she talks about them like they're just different. They're like god-like beings. These main characters, no one can do a single right thing in the book except for them. Because they know they're doers, they're makers. So I mean, it's an interesting book. I like it. Eventually, people start going missing. These entrepreneurs, once their business gets taken by and nationalized by the government, they just start disappearing. One guy invents a new way to harvest oil from shale. And bring alive these old oil mines that no one was able to figure out. And then once they figure that out, they're like, well, now you've got to do this for the sake of the country. We've got to take this as the government. We've got to take this and we've got to distribute it to the people that need oil. So he's like, fuck this. And he lights his entire oil mines on fire. And they burn throughout the rest of the story, just always burning. It's like they just can't put out the fire. It's called Wyatt's torch throughout the story. But then he disappears. So all these famous billionaires and millionaires start going missing, and eventually you find out that it's because they've been I'm not going to spoil the rest of the book, but there's a main character named Francisco Daconia, and he is an heir to a very rich copper gold miner guy who has tons of mines, and he supplies tons of ores for different parts of the different companies. But he Francisco Daconia has been recruiting people to cut off their businesses and hide with him. And then once the world collapses because there's no one for the looters to feed off of, they'll all come out, all the rich and the smart, the makers will come out and live their prosperous lives. Once again, I'm only halfway through the book, but I do like it so far. It's interesting. It definitely has a couple. The main points I would say are wrong is that there's no one. I guess that's a good thing to say. Is what I don't like about it. What I don't like about her philosophy is that she thinks that besides the very rich and wealthy, no one would be able to successfully run a business, which is, I think, where her philosophy kind of breaks down, because I think that there might be always someone gunning to run that business, But in this world, it is fiction, so it's like it could just be so long that it's been going on for so long that the only people that really are smart are the ones that own the businesses. I'm not too sure, but it seems like the only people that can do right are the main characters. And I think in her perfect world, her pure capitalism is when, and she gives a definition in the book, it's when people are creating the best product and selling it for the least amount of price that they can. That's to make it the most competitive. So that's a very competitive free market. They're making the best product they can and selling it for as least as they can. That way they can not only beat the competitors with how good their item is, but also beat them on price. So, I mean, that just doesn't happen in the real world. There's phones are literally programmed with like, what is that word called? It's like, manufactured, I don't know, it's blanking. Put it in the comments if you remember it, but it's like where items are designed to break over a certain amount of time to make you buy it again. Now, her version of capitalism may have been true when things held up, right? Now clothes don't even last a year, don't even last a cycle. They go through the wash 15 times and then you get a hole in them. Items are designed nowadays to die so that you buy more. Capitalism is no longer pure. It's no longer a free market. No one's competing anymore. Their competition is based not on the object that they're selling. It's mostly based, I guess, maybe because of the internet, on how many eyes they can get on it, and it's an advertisement-based competition instead of a product-based competition. So, I mean, in a perfect world, she might be true. Her theory might be true, and the best possible case is a competition where businesses are trying to be, and it's almost like a self-righteous want for them to compete with these other businesses, and it's a healthy competition. They know, they're like, well, man, you're a good competitor, but I'm going to have to take you down. Look, my product's better. I'm going to have to take you down. Now it's not really like that. I at least I don't think so. It's I don't know. I do like the story. I'm going to finish reading it, but some of her philosophies are not the best. And she never claimed to be a philosopher. She's an author, but maybe she did claim to be a philosopher, but her backstory was, and the reason she so vehemently loves capitalism is because her family, she was from Russia, and during the Russian Revolution, when Lenin came to power, her family actually owned a couple small businesses, a couple mom and pop shops, but those were seized and nationalized by the Lenin government. So her family were robbed of everything that they've worked for, and in her mind as a child, this, it stings, and I can definitely see how, seeing, what your parents worked for their whole life, they go from, members of the society where they're, they see Jim come into the shop every day and they're like, hey Jim, what's up? You want the usual? I'll give you a ham sandwich or whatever. To them also being broke and having to flee to America, where they are free to pursue the American dream. The American dream was way more alive then than it ever will be, probably ever. The American dream now is, a 2-bedroom apartment for $12,000 a month. That the American dream, it's almost unattainable now. It's a sad truth. That being said, I do think that, I don't know if there's a way for us to come back, but kind of a depressing note to end on. But I will say this, and I will leave you with this, that if you like this episode, or if you want me to do more book, if you want to hear more about either, put a, let's see, let's do this. Do a 9/11 emoji if you want me to talk more about manufactured consent, and do a deep, sharp inhale emoji if you want me to talk more about Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. And I will talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.